Recording. All right. I'd like to welcome everybody to our May 24th Eagle City Council meeting, starting at 5:30 p.m. If we get a roll call, please.
Here.
Here. Present. Here. All right. If everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Does anybody have any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda? Staff? Nope. All right. We'll move on to reports. Councilmember Guindelsberger.
Quick report. We had our joint meeting with the library board, and just to reiterate again for them as well too that they're still looking for a permanent place for Steve, also an outside catalog space, and also a project this year. They're looking for a possible location for another West Side library, maybe Terraview. And second is arts. The art commission, Arts at Small, was about a week and a half ago. Had a great turnout. It was exciting to see everybody that had won. They were super excited by that. So. And the meeting last week, there was just of note the discussion on a mural project for the side of the Soul building downtown. They don't have enough time to finish that for this fiscal year, so they're still working on it, but looking to complete it in the next fiscal. And that is all.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Councilmember Pike.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thanks. Real quick, we had a downtown infrastructure meeting last week, and I'd like to thank the staff for attending that. What it is to try to collaborate with Public Works and the sewer district and everything when every entity, when projects come up, that we collaborate our efforts with them simultaneously, so we help offset any delays or cost to the public with the redundancy of work. So I'd like to thank the people that showed up for staff on that.
All right, excellent. Nope. All right. Thank you very much. All right, City Hall Department Supervisors, any reports or updates? Chief Wilkie.
Thank you, Devontae. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council, Chief Ryan Wilkie, Eagle Police. Just want to take a few minutes. I have some numbers back. I've been promising these for quite some time, and I wanted to take a few minutes to cover some stuff, answer some questions, and just kind of make myself available. But one of the things that we're happy to produce, finally, were some numbers for the end of the year for 2021. I also wanted to just take a quick second to read this message that we put out as far as the police department, and a message from me. And I'll just go ahead and read that. The City of Eagle's Police Department takes great pride in making Eagle a safe place for you to live, work, and play. We appreciate the tremendous amount of support from our community. With a well-trained, knowledgeable, and dedicated staff, we listen to the needs of our citizens and develop strategies to solve problems. Our department believes in our values: integrity, service, dedication, and attitude, which in turn dictate the high level of service citizens can expect from the Eagle Police. When you see an Eagle deputy outside of a call or after one they've serviced, we encourage you to introduce yourself to them. Relationships help us to effectively serve our community, and it's great getting to know our neighbors along the way. And we look forward to serving and working with you as we protect this great community. With that, this is a 3-page document that I've submitted, and I'll go over it real quick. One of the highlights that we're proud of is the Eagle Police Department is part of the Take Back Medication Disposal Project. And during the 2021 year, the City of Eagle Police Department collected a total of 482 pounds of unwanted or expired drugs for proper disposal, keeping our Eagle streets safe. As we know, sometimes prescription medications can fall into our children's hands, can be put into garbage, which can in turn be picked through, or they end up in places they shouldn't be. We've been very successful in taking back our drugs from our community members almost on a daily basis, and we're proud to properly dispose of that stuff. And I laugh only because it's overwhelming, the amount of prescription medications. 482 pounds is a lot, but we're we're happy and proud to take that stuff back so that it doesn't fall into our children or other places it shouldn't be. Crime and clearance, and I'll just go over some of these stuff. This is just a simple graph in comparison to, and I know this is a lot of information, and I'd be happy to talk about this offline, or if you guys have any questions I'll be as brief as I can. We actually saw a percentage in crime solved, as you can see here with the hand, actually go up in 2021. So what that is 65, almost 66% of our cases were solved, and that is obviously over the state of Idaho. It's roughly about 50%. So our Eagle detectives do a great job in clearing our cases and getting some resolution and crime solved. That is an excellent and a percentage I'm very proud of. As I scroll down here, crimes by type, it says person. The easiest way that we've come up with in divvying these up, if you will, are person, property, and society. What society is, usually people kind of raise their eyebrow to that. That's drugs, narcotics, gambling, pornography, prostitution, and weapons law violations. And so you can see here in comparison to the last 4 years, we actually in society crimes had a drop, property crimes had a drop. 2020 is that outlier. Crimes didn't necessarily stop, but a lot of our proactivity did, unfortunately, because of COVID. We were still out on the front, but in different ways, and we did see a spike in some property crimes there, but happy to report that we had a significant number less in 2021. And oftentimes, we can't be everywhere all at once, but what I pride our agency on is being out in places when everybody's asleep. We're out creeping around, trying to make sure that in those dark places, your stuff and your person and your families are safe. And I attribute those drops in that society crimes and that property crimes for proactivity and proactive policing, which we do every day. As I scroll down here, these are just some numbers that will show some of our priority calls. We did kind of stand pat. You can see 2019 very busy at 11,000 calls in general for low priority. We went to drop that almost 2,000. But some of the stuff that I wanted to touch on down here, as you can see, traffic crashes went back up from 2020 as expected, really. Still a bit of a drop from 2019. But we had 506 of those, and so on and so forth. As we scroll down here, there was basically, if you were to summarize this, the way I kind of look at it is basically we're getting back to business. It's unfortunate, but it's the world we live in. People are starting to become active, and quite honestly, a lot of this stuff with economics playing a play in this, property crimes are starting to have an uptick because of, quite honestly, desperation, if you will. There's a graphic in here that we threw in here, and this is basically cost per resident. And I'm very proud of this because I think the bang for the buck that the Eagle City citizens get is tremendous. In comparison to some of our other local agencies, Eagle remains one of the cheapest bang for the buck, cost per resident for the services that we provide here. And you can see, whereas to dime anybody out, these are public numbers, but Garden City pays almost $408 per resident for their police services, where we're at $103.65. So being fiscally responsible as well as putting the best product out there is what we shoot for. This has been a hot topic lately, and I am going to skip ahead here in a second to show some of the numbers for this year. But as everybody knows, with the downtown corridor and the speed changes, hopefully everybody's seeing our officers out there trying to remind people to slow down our downtown corridor. Subsequent to that, citations are sometimes issued. And we did have, again, from being dormant essentially in 2020 to 2021, we had 160, as expected, 163% increase in citations in the city of Eagle from year to year. And that shows right here. We went from 337 in 2020, a lot of people were staying in, back up to 887 total. And then I provided a breakdown for some of the things that we see. Speed continues to be the most frequent that we that we cite for. 2021, we issued almost 200 citations for that. And these are all within the city of Eagle, of course, all the way down to 19 DUI offenses.
Chief Wilkie, I will just say that we did not lower the speed limit in downtown until 2022.
Correct.
So this is not reflecting that. So I just want to make,
thank you.
I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, no, we're not there yet. But great point, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Realistically, people have a love-hate relationship with traffic enforcement. We love it because we're trying to make it safe for everybody to be in our town. And sometimes it requires a reminder of sorts that, hey, these areas are, they're patrolled and signed, if you will, accordingly to a master plan of sorts. You know, when we get a lot of these complaints that are coming out now in 2022, if we really think about it, all we're doing is laying the foundation to make our community safe as we move forward, and just try to remind people to slow down in the downtown corridor and perhaps even find alternate routes if possible. Any questions on the 2021 graphic that I showed you before I move to the last couple months? I will go to this graphic first. So skipping ahead to March, I was able to put together this graphic. This is similar to the previous in the sense of the crimes are going to be labeled the same. What we're just trying to show here is within this month of March, our crimes from 2019, 2020, and 2021. And we can see that total crimes are actually down, which again, a crime rate per population, it's deceiving as it's 13%, but it's also what's awesome is our population has gone up, but our crime rate has gone down. And again, I attribute that to proactive policing in our community, being out on the front, being visible, and being quick to the needs of the community. When a call is phoned in or we're hailed as we're driving around, we try to get there as quick as possible to solve that problem. And this is a reflection of that. As we move down here, again, this is number of arrests in the month. We did have 24 in that last month, which is high for us. But again, we can't dictate what we can't dictate. We had 9 DUI arrests. It's just a simple graphic to kind of show that we're out and about doing what we do. With again here, we have another graphic that shows our proactivity and our proactive policing. When I say proactive policing, that's doing traffic stops. That's doing things that aren't phoned in. That's getting out and contacting citizens. That's essentially being out in front of stuff as much as we can, and that's being in our community. That's checking out in neighborhoods. That's going to schools, and some of those numbers are reflected here. Our traffic stops for March were at 392, which we did have some training that was in there, but we're at a good pace here. As far as I'm concerned, we average about 450 traffic stops a month as an agency, which is it sounds like a lot, but it could even be, we could push it to even be higher. But what's awesome is also our code 3 response time has gone down, when we're averaging about 3 minutes and 10 seconds. And a lot of things can be, that means that to me, we are out in the communities available. We're not sitting behind a desk waiting to respond. We're out in the field, and when a call comes out, there's an officer in that area that's able to respond in a relatively speaking, a quick response. 4 minutes and 2 seconds to get around town on average for a code 3 response is very good.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Pike?
Chief, real quick, a lot of that looks like it's attributed to maybe potential weather too, because I mean we want our officers driving safely to the calls as well. I mean, just so I'm wondering if some of these times they look a little bit longer. It looks like that perhaps during those months there could have been a little bit of weather factor. And are you taking that into
absolutely, Mr. Mayor and Councilman Pike, absolutely. That is a factor. As you can see here in December, obviously, and I'm this guy. I keep trying to touch the screen here because I'm a touch screen guy. I apologize. And it's so Devontae laughs. long story short, 4 minutes and 45 seconds, the roads are not in condition for us to be driving aggressively or above our means. That's absolutely reflected in here. I think January is probably an outlier, but as the weather gets better, we can get there fast. We do not push our officers to drive above their means. We don't want to put, quite honestly, our citizens in danger by anybody who's had the flashing lights come up behind you at a quick pace. I still get it when I'm driving around town in my own vehicle and you see lights. It's a tense moment. A lot of people, unfortunately, don't know exactly what to do. Obviously, we try to pull to the right. That doesn't always happen. Our officers are trained to navigate those situations as safe as possible. If that's coming to a complete stop and altering your route, they'll do that. But all those things are factored in, and weather being absolutely paramount in safety. If we can't get there, if we crash, then now we've created another incident that someone else has to respond to in addition to the initial problem. So,
Mr. Mayor, I would just want you to be able to clarify for the public, though, is that if it looks like it's a longer response time, well, you got to put on all those factors into it. It's just not, because we're taking our time. It's because of the other elements that get in the way. So I mean, I just want that to be part of your conversation.
Yep,
for
absolutely,
the public too.
Absolutely. And let me get to the most recent report, which is released on May 16th. So this is for the month of April. Again, a simple document that shows our activity. Again, with person, property, and society, we're up to 109 society. But again, if you added these up, and that's what if you're wondering what am I doing, I'm trying to do the math in my head, and the math is already done up here, which I asked for and was actually done correctly. We're under the pace, which again I attribute to proactive policing for all of these crimes. We want to be out in front of it, and when I say that, the most simple way that I want our people to respond to incidents in our community is by already being in the community. So that's why you're going to see our officers in your neighborhoods as much as possible. Now, again, we get tied up on complex investigations. That's going to happen. But when they have discretionary time, they're going to be addressing problems, be it traffic, be it neighborhood issues. They're going to be in those places as opposed to responding from one station and having to come. Yes, they do have to write reports there, and you will see deputies at our substations, but they should be in the field a majority of the time, and they are. And you can see right here, as it says, our crime rate, again, still staying steady, 13.23%. We're projected at 11.49 for the entire year of 2022. That's awesome. So that means crime's going down. And again, I will absolutely wave this flag of proactive policing and being in the community. That's what we do, and that's why these figures show that. And we moved again. April was a very Jekyll and Hyde, Idaho month for weather. So we did have snow. We don't stop working, but we do have to drive slower. So I think those response times are shown there again with, as Councilman Pike pointed out, some weather included in that as well. I know it's a lot of information, but I will do my best to furnish this. Any transparency, I'm all about that. I want you guys to know. And it's hard to cover from A to Z with what we're doing. There are complex cases that aren't necessarily shown in these graphs, but this is an overall, I think, of what our community is concerned with. And by all means, if anybody has anything else, a citizen wants to reach out to us, feel free, and I can try to provide answers to any other questions. But with that, I know it's a lot in a short period of time, but Mr. Mayor, Council, do you have any questions?
No? All right. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? No? All right. Then we'll move on to Treasurer. Any questions on the financial reports? For Kelly? No? All right. City Attorney reports? No, nothing? All right, great. We'll move on to public comment. Item 6, public comment. The Eagle City Council is taking both in-person and remote public comment via WebEx. Meeting login instructions are posted on the website. If you just want to watch the meeting without giving comment, please watch our live stream at the website. This time is reserved for the public to address our elected officials regarding concerns or comments they would like to provide to the City Council regarding subjects not on the agenda. At times, the City Council may seek comments, opinions regarding specific city matters during this allotted time. This is not the time slot to give formal testimony on a public hearing matter, land use application, or comment on a pending application or proposal. Out of courtesy for all those who wish to speak, the City Council requests each speaker limit their comments to 3 minutes. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make a public comment? No? All right, then we will move on. Oh, okay. Yep, if you can come on up and give your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Mayor, Councilman. My name is Barbara McGann. I live at 9201 Grand Mason Place in Eagle. I'm here representing the equestrian population, of which your town is well-renowned as an equestrian town. A lot of people move here. A lot of people spend millions and millions of dollars buying properties here because of the equestrian component. And of course, we're here about the shooting range. And we're not opposed to a shooting range. We're just opposed to the location. I've lived here since 1986. And we used to ride in the Boise foothills a lot. And we got kind of run out of there by the mountain bikers because they're coming down the mountain at about 45 miles an hour, screaming around corners, and there's no way that a horse, you can avoid the collisions. So most of the riders have centered our riding around the Big Gulch parking lot, and we have had some good, productive conversations with Abamore and M3 and various people about the development out there and how, they have expressed that they really had a positive view of recreationalists and that they were hoping to build their development in such a way that we would be able to continue to ride on hilltops or up through the gullies or something, So we were encouraged. But the shooting range is a bar too far. One, it would do away with our parking lot, and that's the only place that a bunch of trailers can park. Two, the noise of the repeated guns is just intolerable for horses. We have people with young horses, we have inexperienced riders, we have, and it's not the place for it. Further out would be good. You had a proposal for the BLM parcel over there, and you were going to put a gun range and a motorcycle park and the horses and the dogs and the arrows and, all of this stuff in one small area. And maybe that's when the guns got moved over to the Big Gulch area. I don't know. But anyway, we realize that it's not our land, and we realize that, things are decided without too much public input. But really, that's not a good use of that land. And maybe you're already too far gone in the process. I don't know, but we object. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Anything from the council? No? I would just like to say that the equestrian, I think, is very important to all of us up here on the diocese. I can't speak for everybody, but I think we all think the equestrian is very important. And moving forward, one of the things that I would like to see, and I'm hoping all of us do too, is the fact that we have public property that we can continue to allow the horses to ride on. Right now, it's private property. It's like someone, riding their horse across someone's lawn. I mean, even though it's vast amounts of land, it's private. And I want to see us try to preserve land long-term for, my grandkids, my kids, and everybody else to ride horses in the foothills that will be public lands forever. So we are looking at all kinds of options for that also. And there's plans for things to happen up there in different ways that we can do that. And hopefully we can make that happen in the future. So But the shooting range is not a done deal. We brought this very early in the stages to the public so we could get their input. A lot of times, like you said, there isn't a lot of time to give your public comment. And I think myself and the council have been really good about bringing things ahead of time to people before we need to. A lot of times, a lot of work's done in the background. You come to one meeting, you have your chance to give your input, and then, you know, a decision's made and and council moves on. The reason we brought this so early and did an open house and got people involved is because we knew there were a lot of people it was affecting, and we wanted to make sure we could hear from them all. So, you know, sometimes that gets you because, you know, it's left open for people to interpret what they want and not actually make decisions with facts. But at the same time, I think it's best to be able to hear things from all kinds of different folks. So I don't know if any of the other council members want to say anything, but no? Okay. Okay, come back up for a second. Let's wait till you get to the mic just so we can get it on record.
Could I ask then that as you go forward in making your plans for public land or BLM land or a space for the equestrians that you consult with the equestrians? Because, for instance, in your BLM piece, the trailer parking area was big enough for what we figured was maybe 6 trailers, trucks and trailers. And out at the Big Gulch parking lot, we've got room for 50, and we fill it up regularly. So, you know, 6 is just not going to do it. So you need to have the input of the equestrians to understand the size and what, you know, if you allot 200 acres, for instance, for the horse part, that makes a 2-mile trail. That's like going around in a circle. You know, it's just not. It's not.
So we did a lot of equestrian. We had equestrian experts at the plan. It was an open house for the BLM plan. People could come and give input on all kinds of things. Right. So a lot of times what happens is people don't realize what's going on, and then all of a sudden they do. Right. But we do. We can't come to the doors, drag you out to the meetings.
No, I understand.
But we can make it available as many times as possible, and that's why we brought something like this early. Right. You know, the parking that you're talking about is where we agreed to get a subdivision to allow us to have a trailhead. But there was multiple other trailheads along the BLM for horses. Right. So there's not always, we don't always want one spot, right? When you have one spot like you do at Willow Creek right now, all 50 people are going to the same spot, same time, could be leaving, going. If you have 4 different spots along the BLM, then people can go to all different spots and not take up and go for the same. So there is a lot of that going into the process. So thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, definitely. Anybody else that like public comment? None? All right. Then we'll go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. Ooh. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Tammy Bromley, and I live at 8856 Silver Spur Lane, Middleton, Idaho. My horses have resided in Eagle for about the last 15 years. 5 years ago, I was able to access land of my own where I could have them. I have been riding in the Eagle foothills for the last 20 years. And I brought this little stick horse. This is my granddaughter's stick horse because she's not quite old enough yet to ride. I would love to be able to share with her the experience that I've had out riding in the foothills that I've been able to enjoy since I was a young child. I was involved in your early processes when you first started talking about the BLM park, when you talked about different areas for a shooting range. And I'm just here to say, I'm all for your shooting range. I think that's great. I think it's great to have it a safe designated area where it's safe for everyone. The location that you're putting it at, I talked to you at the open house and asked you to reconsider that this was a really bad idea. It's a major trailhead area for many equestrians to access many hundreds of miles. And, you know, some equestrians will get on horses and they will ride maybe a 3-mile loop, which is a very small, it's a very small track. Other equestrians get on their horses and they will ride for 3 to 5 hours at a time. And that, in order to do that, to have variety in trails and variety in training facilities or training experiences for the horses, you need more than a 3-mile track or a 5-mile track. Your current BLM track that you have is about 7 miles. And it's a single track and it doesn't have enough variety available that we currently are able to access graciously through Avamore being open and allowing open space use. But I would urge you to have a more open process where equestrians are more involved in being able to have someplace to go, because Eagle, the heart of Eagle is an equestrian community. That's been for the last 40, 50 years, the heart of Eagle has been an equestrian community. And a number of those people do live outside of your city limits, but they are what makes Eagle Eagle. And we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in Eagle at the businesses. We do. I mean, equestrians spend a lot of money. Our horses take a lot of care. We take a lot of feed. Our trucks take a lot of fuel, and we spend a lot of money. So we greatly support your economic city here, and we're just asking for you to be work with us. We'd love for you to have a shooting park, but in a place that it's not a hindrance to recreationists like the equestrians. There's also dog hikers that are out there all the time. I mean, literally all the time. You go out there any given day, even on weekdays, and there's 8 to 10 horse trailers out there, and there's probably 20 or more dog walkers, and that's any given time during the day. So that means people are coming and going throughout the day, utilizing that area to recreate. So I would ask you, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, this is a nice, organic, recreational area. Why not build on what residents have established and built over time and try to expand on that and build off of that? And then put in your shooting range in a place that's going to work great for your gun enthusiasts and your target shooters and bow hunters, but in a place that it's going to be, they get everything that they want, but it's not going to cause such distress to the other recreationists in the area. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Brantley? Ms. Brennan?
Tammy.
It's Tammy Brantley, right? Yeah. That's me. I'll just call you Tammy instead. So relative to the park and stuff like that, and this kind of both relative to the planning, I can actually say right now, so I've been planning in the Boise foothills and the Eagle foothills for about 30 years. I can honestly say right now, the city of Eagle is doing more to plan with equestrians than has ever happened before. This is forever, and it's been one of our emphases as equestrian, we know it is. So one of the big things is we go back to the BLM parcel. One of the big concerns we had with the BLM parcel with that one was the fact that we had one use that was taking over all the rest of them, which is shooting on public lands. That basically, one of the big things was the equestrian community in particular said, hey, we are afraid to ride out there because of the shooting. So we took that. The other ones we've done, so the potential for the parking area. So we have 4 parking areas right now identified for the BLM. When you say the 7-mile trail on the BLM, it's 7 miles long. The trail, actually, the network we're looking at, it could be upwards to 30 miles plus of riding within that area. So there is so when we do talk about them.
I was just going to say, if you could make that map. So I've been looking at the maps that you have on your website for the City of Eagle and for the park. And so if you come up and you go across the ridge and it looks like you drop down and then you go up to the other ridge and you go across, and you might get some interval training for horses going up and down those. So one of the problems with the foothills in that specific area, and I've ridden there, because I used to have, my horses used to live right off of Haven, which is right backed up to Homer, and I would access the trails with owner permission through vineyards, et cetera, to get back into the area exactly where the BLM park is. So there's some major challenges there. Is the hills are incredibly steep, like unsafe steep, unsafe for horses, especially a young horse or an older horse to navigate. They're gonna, it is a severe problem. There's severe badger hole problems, and we have some of those out on the east side of Willow Creek, but the ones on the west side of Willow Creek, between Willow Creek and 16, those holes are so deep and so hard and so entrenched that if a horse gets a leg in those, you're going to have a broken leg out there. And for a horse, a broken leg is death. So we would just like to have more people who have equestrian background in your planning process, because to go up about half a mile, ride 3 miles, go down half a mile, up a half mile, ride back 3 miles, is about the only loop that I saw on the map that you presented. If there's other maps, I'd be open to them.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So the only thing that was on the map, what's existing out there. That's the only thing that's on the map. We didn't put any proposed trails or anything on there. That's all that's existing. If you look actually in the plan itself, we have an entire process by which to do that. There's actually an equestrian trails manual. It's about 2.5 inches thick that we use to do all of those. We want to standardize the trail process, so all of those. So if you actually look in the plan, not only are the parking areas for the equestrian areas, we actually have an equestrian park. Similar to how we have the bike park, we actually have an equestrian park. It's very equestrian, and then when we talk about the trails, those would be developed in the future. That's all part of the planning process. So that's where we are. So we're.
And that's great, but what do we do between when you break ground for the shooting park, if you break ground for the shooting park this summer, until you get around to these extra trails and opening that up? I mean, where do we go?
Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
That's actually was included in the plan as well. So
Awesome.
it's a phased plan, so all of those would be done. So there's also other areas. So we have, right now, do you guys go west very much on Little Gulch? It's been shut down for a while. The M3 shut that down way back when, more to kind of do a point. However, all of that is in phase. That's the whole point, is to try to do as many uses as possible. Everybody is not going to be happy. We already know that. There's no way to make everybody happy. But we're trying to make the most people happy, the safest, which is the biggest thing. Our biggest concern out there is safety. And then also working through the development process in order to identify a lot more trail uses up there than are currently there. So I guess the one thing I'd ask for is, one, yes, we definitely equestrian we partner with, that's probably one of our biggest emphasis of groups that we talk with all the time. But the other one is, it's also kind of a long-term planning process. We will all be addressed. Our problem is we can't talk about all of it right now. So as soon as we can in the future meetings, please come out so we can talk through the entire process, so you can see kind of what's going on.
So you're asking me to trust you right now?
Yes, exactly. How about this? Just the next time we have our planning sessions and we can open those back up, come out in force and ask all the questions you can of what we have available.
And I did that the last time you did. When you had all those planning meetings and open houses, I was here and I was talking with you. Mr. Pike remembered me, talking to him one-on-one. So we are trying to be involved in the process, and we're trying to respect the process. I've sat in a seat of leadership, and I know it's difficult and challenging. I'm just asking you to hang on to what is, this truly is a gem of what we have here in Idaho. I relocated here 3 decades ago from Colorado that got all fenced off and boxed up and parceled out, and you can't go out and ride the foothills, or you can't even go out and find equestrian trails, because everything, and this is the last remnant in the United States where you can kind of go do that. And I'm just beseeching you to realize what a gem and how precious this is. And if you want to talk about it, yeah, it will drive the land values up if you can have this gem of a recreational opportunity available to people instead of selling it off and parceling it out. So just think of long term.
Yep.
And maintaining eagles.
And I'll reiterate what I said before, too. Our issue right now is we have 2 landowners that can turn off the spigot at any time just by doing it. One of our big goals is to get as much of that property in the foothills into Eagle taxpayers' hands so that we can maintain it and keep it for the public forever. So that is what our goal is. And just to clarify also, we are not the ones that sell off and parcel the lands. Those are the landowners that decide, no, this isn't back and forth, I'm just having a conversation. I'm just making some statements. So I just want to make sure that's clear to folks, that the goal is to make sure that this stays in the people's hands forever. Right now, 2 owners, shut it all off at any time, and we're trying to get as much of it in our hands as possible so that we can make sure it stays in the public's. Because we believe it's as important as you do. We really do. So, all right, anybody else? Public comment? Going once, going twice? Okay. Consent agenda, item 7. All consent agenda items are considered action items. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and are acted on with one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless the mayor, a council member of city staff, or a citizen requests an item to be removed from the consent agenda for discussion. Items removed from the consent agenda will be placed on the regular agenda in a sequence determined by the city council. Any item on the consent agenda which contains written conditions of approval from the City of Eagle City Staff, Planning and Zoning Commission, or Design Review Board shall be adopted as part of the City Council's consent agenda approval motion unless specifically stated otherwise. Council members, is there anybody like to remove anything from the consent agenda? No?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I believe we have somebody that wanted to.
Okay, I'm gonna go through the.
Okay, I didn't. I was
Councilmember.
gonna
Is
pull
there
it from.
anybody that would like to?
No, go for it.
No, okay. Staff? None? All right, public? Come on up and let us know what you'd like us to remove, and then what we'll do is we'll remove it, we'll then approve the rest of it, and then we'll see if we want you to come back up and answer some questions for us.
Understood. My name is Chris Klein. I reside at 755 North Caracaras Place. I represent the Homeowners Association of Echo Hawk Estates. At issue is the proposed fencing solution bordering.
Can you just give us the item number that you want removed, and then we'll remove it, and then we'll come back?
I believe it's U.
7U? Okay,
U.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Okay, seeing none. Council? Like to?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
I'll go ahead and move that we approve consent agenda items 7A through AI, with the exception of pulling U.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Roll call?
Aye.
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 All right. Would you like to hear from gentlemen about item U? Okay. If you'd like to come up now and you can give your name and address for the record. And
Yes. Again, my name is Chris Klein, address 755 North Caracaras Place.
all right, go ahead.
So, at issue is the proposed fencing solution bordering Echo Hawk Estates. I represent the Homeowners Association, bordering our association and Renee Commons development, which is under development currently. We have wood fencing as part of our CCNRs. We contacted the representatives, developer's representative, had a conversation last spring with Becky McKay. We said we needed wood fence. We were told we were going to get a wood fence. Our fence could be replaced. There's a 300-foot fence and inches. With the development going, bulldozers in place, I spoke to Becky again and wanted to make sure we were on track to have a wood fence. She indicated that the City of Eagle does not allow wood fencing for new development. Spoke to Daniel in Planning and Zoning. He confirmed that you can replace a wood fence with a wood fence. Went back and forth, spoke to the developer. He said, basically, we want a vinyl fence. We're going to get a vinyl fence, take it up with the city. That's why I'm here. The farmer that had the property prior had a double fence. Their solution is to put a vinyl fence in, 3 inches inset in their property, so as not to violate our CCNRs. Not a good solution. We back up to the Farmers Union Canal. We have a rodent issue. We have raccoons residing in this small space already. It's a danger, it's a harm to our families, our pets. I have 3 German Shepherds. One of my Shepherds was injured by a raccoon last spring. Having a double fence doesn't make sense. No way to mitigate vegetation. We have crazy vines in there already. We have rodents. We have a rodent problem. I see 2 solutions. One is a double-sided fence, vinyl on their side, wood on our side, no gap in between, so we don't have to mitigate rodents and vegetation. The other is to inset this vinyl fence inside the property line enough for humans to get in there, take care of the vegetation, and rodents, small mammals can't reside in there. I don't know where to take this, don't know how to handle this, but we, to preserve the continuity of our development, not have a 300-foot vinyl fence where we're to violate our CCNRs and basically have the same continuity we have in ours. I don't know where to take this, but I really oppose their proposed solution, which is simply to inset it 3 inches in and tough luck. So I don't know how to handle this, don't know what to do, but myself and other people in the neighborhood are at odds with this, and I don't know what to do with it.
Okay. Council have any questions? Or?
Mr. Mayor, I got
Mr.
a
Klein?
quick thought. I know the code talks about the vinyl fencing, but there are a number of new developments that do actually have wood fencing. In Homestead is one of the examples. So I know we've gone through this already, but I'm kind of confused with that statement a little bit.
Okay, you want to ask staff?
Yeah, so I'd like to, who wants to represent that for staff? I'm sure Mike or Bill, doesn't matter. And also, I think Legacy has some combination wood fencing with open
Mr. Mayor, members of the
wrought
council.
iron. Yeah, go ahead.
The applicant's representative is here this evening and also can give you the applicant's perspective of their approval process through the design review process for this fence. But to answer your question, Councilmember Pike, with regard to wooden fencing, the city code does permit wood fences. However, and I'm not sure about this, I'm not familiar with the specific circumstance, but the code does require open style fencing adjacent to common areas. But if you have a backyard fence, for instance, you can still do a wooden fence. With this instance, though, the vinyl fence, I believe, was approved as part of the design review application, so changing it would require a modification to the design review. And I have not evaluated this application. Emily Giroux is here this evening, could comment on that as well, but perhaps you'd want to hear from the applicant first.
No? Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks for your consideration.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm Becky McKay with Engineering Solutions, address 1029 North Rosario and Meridian. I'm here representing Sterling Homes. We're kind of in a quandary on the fencing issue. When we held our neighborhood meeting, we have Wycliffe Estates is to our south boundary, and they had existing vinyl fencing. And so the residents that attended the neighborhood meeting were primarily from Wycliffe, and they said, you know, we asked one thing of you, that, you know, one, you match our elevation so your lots don't drain on ours, because there was an elevation difference. And secondly, they said, we would like you to install the same type of vinyl fencing that we have, so it's kind of continuous and meshes in with the neighborhood. And I said, yeah, that's, you know, that I don't see that that's problematic. On our east boundary is Wycliffe or Echo Hawk Estates, which is an older development, which has cedar board dog-eared fencing that is older and dilapidated. So after the Wycliffe residents left and I was getting in my car, a gal pulled up, and there are two lots just on our east boundary. And the gal said, I'm sorry I'm late. She said, I'm your neighbor to the east. And she said, I like that you put the big lots next to us. I don't oppose the development. She said, I just have one recommendation. She said, our fencing is really old and dilapidated, and would you and your developer agree to install new fencing along your east boundary? And I said, well, what type of fencing? I said, we were thinking vinyl. And she said, well, that would be fine. So that was kind of our thought. Well, a few weeks later, I got a call, and she just left me a voicemail, and she said, I checked with my homeowners association, and our CC&Rs prohibit any type of fencing except for dog-eared wood fencing. So she said, I don't know what you're going to do, but you can't take our fence out and replace it with vinyl without obviously violating our covenants. And then I did talk with Mr. Klein on the phone, and I said, I don't know how to reconcile this. I think only the council can, because the design review committee did approve us with vinyl fencing. And I said, you know, we could inset our fence, I said, like 1 inch, so it's on our property, and then remove the wood fence so that it doesn't violate, they could still benefit from our vinyl fence, and it doesn't violate their CC&Rs. But in my conversations with Mr. Klein, he said that he objected to vinyl. So I'm just, and like I said, there are only two lots there. There's about 300 feet. So, you know, I did tell the Wycliffe Estates that we would have matching fence. So I'm kind of in a quandary, and I guess I have DR conditions that state I have to have wrought iron and vinyl in compliance with your code. So I'm not sure what the solution is. I guess, one, we could, with their permission, either remove the wood fence and install vinyl 1 inch into our side so it's not within their subdivision, or two, we could leave their wood fence and put our fence right up against it without any gap. I don't think a good solution is to leave a 5-foot area because people are just going to put their lawn clippings in their doggy do. And the weeds are going to grow, and the HOA is going to say, we don't want to take care of it. It doesn't benefit anyone. So the third option would be, I'm not a fence expert, so I don't know if you can install vinyl and then attach wood on the back side so that they would still retain their wood fence continuity. So I guess I'm going to kind of need the council to make a determination, because I do have DR conditions that I must comply with unless the council determines otherwise. One other issue I want to bring to the council's attention is we were conditioned to construct an 8-foot nature path along the Farmers Union Canal. And so I've been working with Jerry Kaiser, their attorney, who is retiring, and my application is his last one. And Mr. Kaiser and the president of the board, Lloyd Akins, who's 90, I think, or 92, I'm not sure, sent me an agreement, and it basically states that, please note, this agreement prohibits any changes or alterations to the canal maintenance road, or within the canal right-of-way without the Farmers Union written approval. And then Mr. Akins signed the agreement prior to my client signing it, which obviously we could not have. So I kind of talked to staff. You guys have a master pathway agreement now with Drainage District Number 2, Middleton Mill Canal. I talked to Sam Rostai, who was on the Farmers Union board as the president, but had to step down because he sold all of his property to Toll Brothers over in Star. And Sam said, we recognize it's only a matter of time, that we're going to have to enter into an agreement. And so the Farmers Union has retained Sawtooth law offices. Andy over there that works with Bryce Ferris, who they're very familiar with these joint agreements with their Nampa Meridian's attorney, Settler's attorney. They've got joint agreements with Boise, with Meridian. So I think I'm just kind of caught in the change of the guard. So my suggestion is we will grant a public easement within Lot 1, Block 2. And then I will, since that was one of my conditioned amenities, we will trust fund for 150% of that pathway improvement. We will provide your staff current bids, and then since I'm only a segment of that, that trust fund money will be in an account with the Pathway Parks Department to be utilized once you guys get an agreement with Farmers Union. So we're not skating on our condition. We're not trying to, get out of our commitments, but we're just putting money in trust, not a bond, but cash. I kind of had the same problem with Boise the other day, because their agreement with Nampa Meridian is old, and they got a brand new pathway plan, and they have not renegotiated with Nampa Meridian. So we're kind of seeing this as these cities are coming up with new master pathway plans. Meridian's got a new one too. So I'm just caught between a rock and a hard spot. So I guess I asked the council to please add a condition that we We put an easement, public pathway easement on Lot 1, Block 2, the Farmers Union Canal, and that we trust fund 150% of our improvements for that 8-foot wide nature path as committed in our original conditions, which was condition 3.10.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Ms. McKay? No? All right. Any discussion? Any more questions for Mr. Klein?
Mr. Mayor, I think Bill or Mike were gonna, they got a plan for us.
Well, I would also like to say too that, so when you build a fence, you're building it on your property, both sides, and you usually build it up to the property line. I don't believe we have any CCNRs that say you have to have any fences. Anybody could have open. So if the vinyl fence got built and Echohawk Estates people just didn't have one, it's not their vinyl fence because it's not on their property. So I think we've got to think about how this works, and if Echohawk wants to do something, but we're almost asking somebody on somebody else's property to make them do something. So I just wanted to bring that up as we're kind of talking about it. It's kind of a touchy situation when we do that kind of stuff, but
Mr. Mayor?
The mic has a say. Yeah.
Just on those, Mr. Klein, can I ask you a question? You got it up there. Are one of the two parcels yours?
Yes.
Okay, I kind of assumed that, but.
Yeah, I have 190 feet, approximately 190 feet, and there's another, my neighbor has the balance of the 300 feet.
Okay, I'm assuming you guys have discussed, are you guys kind of both, like, are you speaking for both?
I'm speaking for both and the board.
Okay.
Because I represent the board as well. It's basically, number one, we don't care for vinyl fence. Our CCNRs dictate wood fence. So if it's 3 inches inside as proposed, we essentially have a vinyl fence. Then we have continuity issues. We've had other residents propose putting vinyl fencing in, kind of smooth that out and say we want the continuity, we have wood fencing, we want to preserve the integrity of our HOA. We're willing to work. That's why I proposed in my letter, I proposed something, maybe a double-sided fence with 0 space, because currently the farmer put in a double fence along some portion of this, and there are crazy vines in there and the rodents, so it needs to be a zero line there. You'd drive through the neighborhood and all of a sudden you'd see a stark vinyl fence, whatever texture or color it be, it just wouldn't fit in our neighborhood, whether it's on our property line, as traditionally is, or inset, so as not to violate our CCNRs. It's still, we have a stark vinyl fence in there, and it just doesn't. We've been there for 20 plus years, and the big bad developer comes in and wants to put their vinyl fence in. I get it. The other association Ms. McKay spoke about is perpendicular to it. It's not their property, it's not their property line. They have barely line of sight to it. It is our property, it's our CCNRs, it's our development, it's our property values. You know, we have wood fencing. That's why we have CCNRs. So I understand.
But my question is, if they build it on their property, you can build whatever you want on your property as close to it as possible, because if they do 3 inches, then obviously you don't. But if they build it on the property line, you can build yours on the property line, and then you have a 0.
I'm not a fencing expert.
Right.
However, you would have maintenance issues. So our fence needs to be replaced. We're prepared to replace it. Of course, it's going to be at a great cost to us. We're going to need to do it anyways. We know this as an association. It's part of the deal. To have a wood or vinyl fence, that any kind of fencing where you can't access either side to power wash it, do whatever you need to do to preserve it so it lasts a long time, it would need to be attached. So I don't know how that would work. I'm not a fencing expert. I am a woodworker, but it would need to be attached in some respect. Having it just butt up against, you're going to have rot, and you are going to have vegetation will actually spread the fence apart, just like trees dig up sidewalks and driveways. So it would need to be either attached as a double-sided fence.
Right.
That's essentially what it would need to be. Or, as I proposed, it would have to be inset enough to mitigate all the vegetation, be able to get in there and mitigate the vegetation without chemicals, which would be a danger to our family and pets.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So on that one, I mean, and they'll do them is, so you guys would be okay if it's a vinyl fence with we'll call the fencing side on this side, and they can actually just put, if we put cedar slats on your side attached to that fence?
Absolutely, that works, yeah. I'm not opposed to
Sure how that works, but.
I don't know if that can work.
I don't know how that works either.
Got it.
That's the only solution I see it, where they get their vinyl fence and we preserve the integrity of our HOA.
Because I think that's, you should be able to screw them directly into the.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It is possible. It's
Mr.
possible.
Mayor,
Yes.
how would you maintain the backside if it's attached to the vinyl fence?
Well, it would be attached, so you wouldn't have the vegetation in there. You wouldn't have the vegetation in there for things for organic matter to grow in there.
So, and if you were to power wash your side, stain your side, it would bleed through to the vinyl?
Well, that's actually a point. You know, if we were, we don't stain it. You don't want to stain a fence if you don't have to.
Any kind of,
You just
even a
pressure
clear
wash
coat
it,
or-
pressure wash it, keep it clean, and cedar lasts forever as long as you keep it clean. But staining it would bleed through, and it could go to the other side.
And so would you guys pay for your side?
Yeah. We do that. We're open to working with it. We just don't want drive through our 100 homes and all of a sudden you're faced with this stark vinyl fence.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I got a couple of comments. Mr. Klein, first of all, I'm not trying to be argumentative by any stretch, but I live in a neighborhood that has wood-looking vinyl on mine, and the neighborhood right to the west of us has white vinyl. Total huge contrast. I don't know how the developers all got to do separate designs and stuff, but it's a stark contrast. My neighbors actually have their back fences dark brown and their side fences are white vinyl. So it looks terrible, but they can't do anything about it. My development, they put the dark vinyl, the brown vinyl on their property line. And the development to the west did not do anything. So they just used that common fencing as their property line fence. And so they got this visual contrast going on, which you alluded to, which is an issue. I go back to what the mayor said, though, as far as if somebody's doing something on their own private property and you're doing stuff on your own private property, how do you distinguish the difference between, I mean, how do you control somebody's decision and ability to do stuff on their property and you're wanting to maintain your integrity and yours on your side? So you're doing your thing, but they want to do the same thing on their property side. So how do you refuse them to do theirs, but you want yours done, I guess is the question.
Yeah, and the answer is a question, and that is, how do we make this work where we have a vinyl fence that has continuity for them, because it was stated by the developer they want the continuity of the vinyl fence that's already there, perpendicular, and how do we get the continuity we have as well? Yeah, at the end of the day, they can do whatever they want. But the reason I'm here is, you know, we're here and to have this stark.
No, we want a conversation, but I've never seen posts put up and then vinyl on one side and wood on the other. I've never seen it, so it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I just don't. Right. I've never seen that activity.
You brought up something which is interesting, and I haven't done much research on vinyl fencing. If there's a proposition or something that looks enough like wood, maybe that would work. However, that would be still a juxtaposition to the existing vinyl fence, which is an off-white. So I don't know.
But that is a reality that's happened in the city of Eagle. There are different neighborhoods that have contrast, big time. White and brown are very contrast of each other. But I would almost ask the developer or Ms. McKay if she can come back up. And there are, through our architectural designs, there are numerous vinyl wood-looking products. Hill Road has one they just put in with a post of, well, they're block post or a rock post, but it looks beautiful. I mean, so it gives you that illusion of wood, yet it's vinyl. I mean, and so.
I'm open. We are open to it. We would like to work with them. I just have in my eyes the stark vinyl fence, and unfortunately, given the communication we had from the beginning, stated, yes, you'll have a wood fence, to all of a sudden, sorry, the City of Eagle doesn't allow it. Me digging deeper and finding, yes, it does allow it. The communication doesn't seem effective to do so.
So we're trying to use our brain and remember all the night that the presentation was made for Renee Commons, and remembering there was a deviation of height for the south neighborhoods, and they didn't want the drainage, and then they got the canal in the way. So I would ask the question, if there's a proposal that could be brought to you that was a wood-looking vinyl fence, would you guys be agree to that?
I think that would work.
I don't know. Maybe Ms. McKay, if you can come back up. Do you mind, Mr. Mayor?
No.
Thank you.
But that's all I have right now, Charlie. I'm sorry.
No, actually, I was going to ask Becky if she can come up, time frame.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Pike, Councilman Bond, yes, there are vinyl products. I've gotten samples of them, and they have a texture to them, and they do have a wood color. So they don't, I think what's out there now is like beige. There's like beige fences in that Wycliffe development, and so we've kind of tried to match, so we mesh in. But obviously on that eastern boundary, we could go with something that is an earth tone with a texture. And my client does own a fence company in California, so he knows his fences.
Mr. Mayor, this sounds like a win-win. I mean, in that point, but I'd like to hear from Councilman Bond. Sorry.
No problem. Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Bond.
So, Becky, what's your guys' time frame on this? I guess one thing is trying to get this attached, but when are you guys starting to build the fence?
The fence goes in typically last.
Okay, that's
very,
kind of what.
the very last item.
So you still
Yes,
have
sir.
some time. So
We have some time to do some research, and I can get Mr. Klein's number, and then either email him some samples or have him come by my office and look at some samples. But
Okay.
that seems like a pretty good compromise.
Oh, I agree.
So that obviously the integrity of their neighborhood's maintained, the integrity of Wycliffe's maintained, and we don't have any real stark differences.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Nope, I'd say that. I mean, especially the fact that the owner of the property is a fence person. They probably have everything in the world. So I'd like this to come back. You guys can coordinate with that, come back with a equitable solution, and then call it good. So with that one, you guys have any more questions or?
Should we you want to table the?
No, I don't want to table that part. I'm just going to.
Yeah.
With the.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll
But
work
we
with
have
staff. I'll bring in the samples once
Yep.
Mr. Klein, since he's on the board and he is an adjoining neighbor, once he says that'll work for us, then I'll bring the sample into to the DR staff and make sure that they're in agreement before it's installed.
So, Mr. Mayor, I don't think we need to make a motion on that one since it's there just coming in. So it'll just be the section 3.10.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mike Williams, planning staff for the record. If you choose to approve this, and that's where the council wants to go with in regard to that style of fencing, staff would request that you do add a condition as part of this final plat approval. To follow up on that, to address the issue that Becky spoke to in regard to the easement and the pathway and everything, staff would request a condition for that as well.
All right. That's
So
3.10.
well,
Amendment to 3.10.
it's an execute.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
No, you're.
They've already executed the development agreement, and the development agreement is 3.10, but it's silent to allowing for the surety. What staff is requesting at a site-specific condition number 26, which states the applicant shall be permitted to provide a cash surety pursuant to Eagle City Code 9-4-2-2 for the pathway improvements located within Lot 1, Block 2 of Renee Commons. And site-specific condition number 27, the applicant shall submit a design review modification application showing a vinyl wood grain style fencing prior to the installation of fencing within the development.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Oop, they're talking. Hey, Mike? Nope, they're talking. Never mind, I'll throw it in here. The only thing I think with the last one is if they come up with a different option, there may be the potential where it's not a vinyl, it's a adhere wood to vinyl. I don't want to keep that, I would say. So Mike, rather than the actual vinyl solution,
Wood grain style fencing?
yes,
Okay.
equitable between the two parties.
Equitable. Mr. Klein's Echo Hawk, right? Okay. Between the applicant and the Echo Hawk Homeowners Association, how's that?
Yep.
All right, any more questions? Make a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yep, Councilman Bond?
are we going to be able to, so Mike, you've already got the motion written down, correct?
Yes, sir.
That was a lot, and I can't remember that. So I'm just going to, I know
Don't
Tracy's
do
going
that,
to hit me.
Tracy.
I know, she's going to hit me.
Mr. Mayor,
Could you read?
it'll be
yes.
waiting in Tracy's email when she gets back
All
on
right.
Thursday.
So, Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion, to pursuant to the motion identified by Mike that will be submitted to Tracy via email. Sorry. Under 7U FP-06-23 Renee Commons subdivision.
And it'll be number 26 will be addressing the surety for the pathway, and number 27 will be addressing the fencing located adjacent to the eastern property line.
Mr. Mayor, amend the motion to include that.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it for the sake of.
Okay,
that start
discussion?
of the discussion.
Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, now we'll move on to item 8, unfinished business. We have none. Item 9, all public hearing items are considered action items. Public hearings will not begin prior to 6 p.m. The Eagle City Council is taking both in-person and remote public comment testimony via WebEx. Meeting login instructions are posted on the website. If you just want to watch the meeting without giving testimony, please watch our live stream at the website. Public hearings are legally noticed hearings required by state law. The public may provide formal testimony regarding the application or issue before the City Council. This testimony will become part of the hearing record for that application or matter. Public hearing testimony, time limits, individual testifyings are allowed 3 minutes for non-repetitive testimony. Is there any disclosure of ex parte or conflict of interest? No, seeing none, we'll move on to A, CU-05-21/PP-UD-05-21/PP-07-21 Millstone Farms Planned Unit Development, Brent Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, my name is Tamara Thompson. I'm with the Land Group. Our address is 462 East Shore Drive here in Eagle. We are representing the property owner and the applicant on these applications, which before you tonight are applications for a conditional use permit, preliminary development plan, and a preliminary plat for Millstone Farms subdivision. I do want to introduce who's with me. So I have Bob Schaefer from the Land Group with me to help answer any questions you may have. And then our client, which is Brent Thompson, who's the property owner and applicant. So just to give you a brief overview, the property is located on the northwest corner of Palmer Lane and Floating Feather. And it currently consists of one parcel, which is approximately 89.87 acres. The property was annexed and zoned back in 2007 and has an existing development agreement on the property. The purple color is mixed-use development agreement, and then the yellow color is R4. So you can see the one parcel has two different zoning designations on it. The approximate areas of each of the zones. The R4 zoned area is 66.65 acres, which equates to 74% of the property. And the MUDA is 23.22 acres, which is 26% of the property. And this is our preliminary plat and development plan. The, sorry, I turned too many pages here. The property is, or the development is out. I'm sorry, I'm out of order here. The what we're proposing is 310 dwelling units, all single family. There are some attached units and some detached units. The up here in the northern portion, in the mixed-use area, is a little higher density. These are the attached units, and then the R4 is the southern, roughly 3/4 of the property. The development agreement for the property is allows for 4.9 dwelling units per acre, and we are at 3. Sorry, I lost my page, and we are at 3.45. So we are at a 38% reduction to what the existing development agreement allows. The access to the public roads, so we have Palmer, which is the north-south road to our east, and Floating Feather is the east-west road to the south. We have 2 access points on Palmer and 1 on Floating Feather. And then we are providing for 4 stubs to adjacent properties to the north and to the west. All roads within the development will be constructed to ACHD standards and include curb, gutter, and detached sidewalks. In fact, the sidewalks are approximately 6 miles of detached sidewalks throughout the development. And again, here's some of the acreages again for the R4 and the mixed use, and the amount of units in each of the zones. So the single family R4DA, there's 187 lots, which is 2.81 lots per acre within that zone. And the mixed use DA, there's 123 with a density of 5.30, and then that combined density is the 3.45, with total single-family lots of 310. Along our street frontages on Floating Feather, there's a 50-foot landscape setback along Floating Feather, and on Palmer, there is a 35-foot landscape setback per city code. The mixed-use DA lots are both attached and detached, as I mentioned before, and we are requesting a reduced minimum lot size and lot widths to from what the mixed-use development or the mixed-use zone is. So typically that's a 5,000 square foot minimum lot size. We're requesting 3,975, and the lot width to be reduced from 50 feet to 35 feet to accommodate the attached units. The project is planned in 3 phases over approximately 5 years. The required percentage of open space is 20%, which would equate to approximately 18 acres. The Millstone subdivision provides 26.5%, or 23.8 acres. So approximately 6 acres more open space than is required by code. The percentage of common open space that is active open space is 44%, where the code only requires 15%. So we do have considerably more open spaces. The programming of those open spaces, as you can see, there's a nice center corridor of green space with walking paths, both north-south and east-west through the property. And then we've spread out the amenities throughout the site. On the north side, we have sports courts. This was a tennis court up on the north side. There's a mailbox building up in that location as well, up here. And then we have a traditional playground area with some raised garden beds in this area. And then at the main entrance coming in off of Palmer, we have a nice pool area with green space and another play area in that, another tot lot. There is a restroom facility building that comes with the pool. And then down in the south is another sport court area. This one's programmed with basketball and pickleball. And then another, and I didn't highlight it, but there is another mailbox location at the south end. A homeowners association will be established to maintain all the neighborhood amenities. And then we presented some concept elevations. I'll just flip through these real quickly. These are the R4, the homes that would be in the R4 zoned area. And just a variety. These are some rendered drawings, so they would not be white, but this just shows the architectural style. And then this is, we're calling these duets, so they're townhouse style, but in kind of a duplex, but they are for sale product. It's not a rental product. They'll each sit on their own parcel, so they can be sold fee simple. ACHD has reviewed a staff or a traffic study that we submitted and has approved the project. We went before the Eagle Planning and Zoning on April 18th, and they have recommended approval of the subdivision. The project is using not only local to the Boise Valley consultants, but to specific to the city of Eagle. So the architect on the project is ALC Architects that are here in Eagle, and the land group is located here in Eagle. And then they're also using Draft Tech, which is another architectural design firm here in Eagle. The development is adequately served by essential public facilities such as highways, streets, police and fire protection, sewer and water is readily available, schools and trash disposal. The development will not create excessive additional requirements to public costs for public facilities and services. The estimated tax revenue generated from the development was submitted. There's an ongoing roughly around $200,000 each year. At full build out. The estimated road infrastructure impact fees to ACHD is over $1 million. That's provided with the property or with the project. And the Millstone subdivision is designed in conformance with the executed development agreement that dates back to 2007. We're in compliance with that development agreement. And as I mentioned before, the density is 38% less than what that development agreement allows for. And we have read the staff report and agree with staff's conditions and respectfully request your approval tonight. We'll stand for questions.
Okay, any questions for the applicant at this time? No. All right, we'll hear from staff. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, typically I already have this pulled up.
It's all good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mike Williams, Planning and Zoning, staff for the record. Tonight before you is Millstone Farms that Tamara's just made a presentation on. They're requesting approval of a subdivision located just north of Floating Feather on the west side of Palmer Road. As she explained, it has a total of 331 lots, which is inclusive of 310 units, 244, which I believe, in fact, they reduced it by one, 243 single family, and then 33 single family attached, which equates to 66 of the duet units. 21 common lots, and it's located on 89.87 acres. Quick vicinity map showing the location of the site. It's just north of the Legacy development, located at the northwest corner of Palmer and Floating Feather. Tamara provided you with a copy of the concept plan. Here's a copy of the preliminary plat, and I'm just going to jump really quick into the concerns that were identified as part of the staff report and part of the Planning and Zoning Commission when they looked at the staff report and based their recommendation from. As Tamara did explain, the total density on this is 3.45 dwelling units per acre pursuant to the executed development agreement with the site. And this takes in this site and the site on the east side of Palmer. They're allowed up to 4.9 dwelling units per acre. As proposed, this is in conformance with that executed development agreement in regard to density. The minimum lot sizes that are typical of the mixed-use zone that are required are 5,000 square feet. They are asking for 3,975. Staff did an analysis of for the offsetting increase of open space, and they have provided that offsetting increase in open space. In fact, with the offsetting increase in the open space, it's still only required 20% total open space, and with this development, they're proposing 26.5% for a total of 23.83 acres. Some of the issues of special concern that were identified, and you'll see on this slide that in italic, they have actually provided a revised preliminary plat and have addressed 3 of those items. And the reason it's not before you tonight is the revised, because everything's based off the recommendation from the original plat, and that's what the Planning and Zoning Commissions and their conditions are based from. And we didn't receive the revised plat, I believe it was Friday, and your packets had already gone out. The issues of special concern, all these, by the way, are addressed within the recommended site-specific conditions. Typical is the deferral of storage trunk line fees. Most of the applicants and developers are coming in. They ask for those to be deferred until they submit their first final plat. There's a condition that they have to pay those when they submit that first final plat. Fencing plan, front setback based on location of the separated sidewalk. And this is due to the fact, and you see this when staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends these setbacks on the front. Typically you see a front setback that's a little bit wider than what's required. And the reason for that being is the sidewalk is located within the lot, and we still have to ensure that we have 25 feet between the back of the sidewalk and the front of that garage. Location of the pathways along North Palmer Lane and West Floating Feather Road. The original plat showed these literally on top of where the berm would need to be, so we asked for a revised plat showing those pathways to be adjacent to the street. They have submitted a preliminary plat showing that. Storm drain seepage beds, the plat, original preliminary plat that the recommendations were based off didn't show anything on the southern end of this subdivision. And there's significant topography between the northern portion of the development and the southern end of the portion. The last time I checked, water runs downhill. So we asked staff and the commission recommended they provide a revised preliminary plat showing the location of the storm drainage facilities on the southern portion of the property since they weren't showing any. And then also streetlights needed to be addressed, and they have provided a revised preliminary plat showing that as well. Fiber optic, there is a site-specific condition to address the requirement of fiber optic cable throughout the development. So site-specific condition of approval number 4, this is addressing the STL fees. So when they submit their first final plat, they'll have to pay the preliminary plat STL fees to the tune of a little over $235,000, plus whatever that phase of the final plat brings. They've already addressed number 5.
Sorry, I was sneezing.
And then number 6, this is your setbacks based on locations of the sidewalk, and you'll see 31 feet for the garage and 31 feet for the garage on both the zoning areas to ensure that we have 25 feet between the front of the garage and back of the sidewalk. Number 10, provide the revised preliminary development plan showing 10-foot wide detached sidewalk. They've provided that preliminary plat already to date. I just request you just leave the condition in place, and they've addressed it with the preliminary plat they provided. And 14, provide a revised preliminary development plan, preliminary plat showing locations of all proposed streetlights, which you have done. And number 27 is in the recommendation to allow for the future installation of the fiber optic. I didn't do the plan and zoning. Your plan and zoning recommendations on page 20 of their findings. And the only change that they made was to site-specific condition number 15. Staff had recommended that they remove the overhead power now when they start the construction. However, that power line runs to a well on the very northern portion of the site, and they want to maintain the power and keep the well active until they get to that phase. So the commission, as part of their recommendation, struck that portion of it, saying it had to be removed at this time to allow them not to remove it until that phase is developed. And with that, staff would stand for questions.
Any questions for staff at this point?
Mr. Mayor? Oh, sorry.
Councilman Pike?
Just real quick, on 15, the overhead power line, it will be removed on the final phase.
Whether it'd just be the phase that's associated where the line is located. It could be on the second phase.
Or, yeah,
right.
That's true. Okay, I just want to make sure. Thanks.
All right, any other questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Bond?
Mike. Didn't know there was nothing in here on CEP funds at all, so I was gonna ask you whether when I was discussing that before I bring it up.
And Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Bond, I believe CEP funds, I'm not sure if we had that discussion. This application, I would say, came in probably about a year ago. So it's taken ACHD and everybody else. We're just finally getting it to hearing.
Nope, that's fine. I just wanted to, it wasn't in here and I wanted to confirm it wasn't in something I didn't have. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Nope. All right, then we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. What we'll do is go through the list of people that signed up, and if you didn't sign up, then we will go ahead and ask anybody else if they'd like to come up and testify. All right, looks like John's the only one that signed up, but I think he was the applicant, so. John Starr? Oh, come on up.
I said, that's not John Starr. That's John Starr.
You can give your name and address for the record, please, sir.
John Starr, 755 West Front Street, Boise, Idaho, 83702. Just wanted to, in case any of you were thinking about this higher density product, I wanted to address that. Diversity is important. It's important for culture. It's important for economics. It's important for creating communities. And I think that one of the most important aspects, the two most important aspects of this project that provide for that diversity are the attraction of the open space and the opportunity to provide product at different levels of income. Of course, product will be in keeping with the overall look and feel of the subdivision, but we're very concerned that we're able to provide a broad selection of product in order to create the kind of diversity that's important to create a community.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you. All right, is there anybody that didn't sign up that would like to come up and speak on this? Yep. If you can give your name and address for the record, please.
I sure will. My name is Tammy Bromley. I live at 8856 Silver Spur Lane, Middleton, Idaho. My veterinarian lives down off of Palmer Lane, actually on what is it, Moon River. And to access his area, I have to go through the intersection of 44 and Palmer. And 44 and Palmer is getting increasingly busy. I don't know if that is under ACHD's jurisdiction. I think it's probably State Highway Department. But I just question, is there a light in process or coming down the pike for that? Because that intersection right now is taking your life in your hands to come in or out of that at 44 and Palmer. And this subdivision will add to that. And so just a thought to consider about having some kind of a light there to make it safe for people to come and go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just so we have been in talks with STAR and ITD and ACHD about putting a light there because of what's been going on with the increased traffic. So we are working on that. Anybody else? No? All right. And would the applicant like to rebut anything from staff or the public?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Tamara Thompson again. I guess to clarify a few things from Mike's slide, and it's not up right now, but just that we did resubmit a plan last Friday, or actually I think I sent it late Thursday, but it had addressing some of the issues. All of those were our conditions of approval that we are fine with in the recommended conditions of approval from staff and from planning and zoning. And that revised plan was something that wasn't required prior to this meeting. It was, one of them is prior to final plat, one of them is prior to design review. So I just wanted to clarify, it wasn't necessarily for this meeting, but it was nice that we were able to do this. But we had a design review pre-app with staff earlier this week, so I wanted to get it into the city so they had it for that pre-app meeting that we had as well.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Vaughn?
So, Tamara, quick question. So I didn't bring it up last time because I want to see if you guys had already discussed it or not. But I guess two things I'd like to see with the plan potentially. First one, I'm sure we've heard with CEP funds, so a conservation and education program, and or the offset, would that be a plan identified to offset impacts to open space and ag lands? Is that something you guys would be willing to include as a condition of approval? And the second one, can you guys pull up, I don't know if Mike, you probably just go the concept plan you guys have? Actually, you can probably just use there you go, perfect. I believe it is block 13, lots 7 and 8, and this is more discussion with you guys on this one. I know you guys have quite a bit of open space and stuff. One of the things that we've continuously run into as a major issue is, and we've brought up, is dog parks. Would there be the potential, in looking at your guys' plan, it kind of sets itself up really well, which is, I guess, I don't know, phase 3 or area 3, lots 13 and block 13, 7, and 8. Either or both, the potential taking those two out, that's a less than a 1% decrease to put a dog park, because one of the things you have here is you have good linear open space, but the problem is 95% of these people are going to have dogs. And I'm going to assume it's within city limits, so you don't have an off-leash dog leash area in here. If you could put one that is a significant trip capture, we've kind of already identified that is the number one trip capture possibly we can have relative to recreation. A lot of people, you'll have 10% that are bikers, 10% that are equestrian, 15. Everybody here is a dog owner, and there's not enough room. They can't have their dogs off-leash within this area. So if you could incorporate an off-leash dog area, I think that would be really well.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Bond. So the first one that you mentioned, the CEP,
Yep.
Could you give us some more information on what that means?
So basically what we're trying to identify right now is every time that we lose agricultural land and or open space. So in this case, this was historically ag land. We are looking for how can we offset the impacts of loss of ag land and or open space. And there's two ways. One, we've come up with kind of a standardized process, which is a funding mechanism. It's basically $5 per month per unit, or $60 per year per unit that goes to the HOA. And that is a siloed fund that goes into a conservation fund that the city uses with partners to acquire open space and or preserve ag land or do conservation-based projects. So we've got that one. However, again, that is voluntary. If not, then it would be, the alternative would be you guys come up with a plan to identify how you would adequately offset the loss of ag land and open space. So it kind of gives you guys the option either or. The CEP is just kind of a preset one. It's kind of plug and play. So that would be the CEP funds. So and we have, again, they're siloed funds specifically for conservation-based projects.
And Mr. Bond, is that, or Councilman Bond, is that something that the city then accepts that money, or is that another third party? I guess I'm just not super familiar with it.
The HOA would collect the fees and then annually would submit those. So the actual city would submit an invoice. The city has identified they will hold and manage the funds. So they will submit invoices to each one of the HOAs citywide that are part of this process. They would collect those funds, and those funds would be siloed specifically for the use of CEP.
Gotcha. And then alternatively, it could be the, in the CCNRs, we come up with our own process, and that could still be funds that go to the city, but maybe not just that exact same one that you already mentioned.
That would be, and it doesn't even have to be funds. If you guys could come up with, say, hey, we went and purchased 10 acres of agricultural land over here that's going to be set aside in perpetuity, something like that. It's, you guys you have the ability to come up with your own alternative to offset loss of ag land and open space.
Okay, I'll have my, I'll need to ask my client before I commit to anything. And then the second one, regarding the dog park and an off-leash area.
Yes.
We are currently working through our design review package, and so we're looking closely at the amenities. And I think we can definitely look at different amenity areas. We have some things that are redundant. You know, we have 2 play areas for kids and that kind of stuff, but we can look at kind of rearranging those and making a dog park. I guess off at the top of my head, I don't know, is there a certain like size that we want to make that?
Usually, I mean, if you want to go like the big, Lexus version is, about 3 acres, but I don't think you're gonna put a 3-acre dog park here. No, for this one, you're looking at smaller. I mean, you're less than an acre, but again, it's a fenced area. That's the big one, is a fenced area that's set aside specifically so people can take their dogs, let them go off leash, and that, trust me, it'll probably take care of a lot of issues in the future that you're gonna have with everybody. You have, like I said, really good linear green space, which means people are going to let their dogs off leash and just run, which then we have enforcement issues that we have to go take care of. So if we can integrate it into the plan, it's a huge amenity. That's one we look at all the time. I mean, you see how much use we get at the Eagle Bike Park. So if there's any way to integrate that, like I said, with what you have right now, you'd probably be able to, it's tough with the linear path you have going through there, kind of segments it. That's why I was looking at potentially dropping one lot or something might be a good way to do that as well.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Bond, so the area that you were talking about was something down in the southern area, is
Actually, yeah, so where you got your pickleball courts, just north of that, right by the cul-de-sac.
Oh, okay, right
Yep,
in
so
this
those two
area.
lots, so that's, I believe, lot 7 and lot 8 are on either side with the open space in the middle. Again, total recommendation, just looking through the plan, and it just kind of sticks out as an easy way to do it.
We will definitely program a dog park.
Okay.
And if I could, my client would like to address you.
Okay, definitely.
Thanks, Tamara. Mr. Mayor and council members, my name is Brent Thompson. I live at 7068 Founder Street, Eagle, Idaho. I also live in St. George, Utah, so you might have seen something on the application there as well. But Tamara usually likes to disclose that we're not related, so I won't disclose that. She didn't tonight, but no relation, even though our last names are spelled the same. Anyway, just want to thank you for your time and consideration. The last time I was presenting a project before the Eagle City Council was in the old library, or the senior center, I think it was. And back when Bill and I and Mike all had more hair and it was less gray. But that time I think I almost wanted to have private security because we had, I think, 200 people against a particular project we were presenting at the time. But we're grateful to be here. Really excited about Millstone Farms. It's a fantastic project. We're really trying to make it a really high quality development, but offer some variety of lots as well. And but I just wanted to make sure and clarify that it doesn't mean because the lots are going to be smaller, it's going to be lesser in quality. One of the concerns in Eagle, and my personal concern living in Eagle right now, is I'd love to have my son, for example, be able to afford to live in Eagle. He's a new airline pilot, just starting actually this month, and there's no way that they can afford a home in Eagle right now. And typical home, for example, like I live in Legacy, if the homes are going for 1.2 and beyond, and just doing the rough mortgage numbers on those, typical person has to put $240,000 to $250,000 down on that loan and make close to $5,500 a month, or the payment would be close to $5,500 a month on that $1.2 million, which, according to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, at a 36% debt to income ratio, you need to have a combined household income of over $15,000 to $20,000, depending on their debt load. And that's a heavy load to bear, and it's tough in a city that's so beautiful, and it's exciting for me to see how wonderful Eagle has continued to grow and how wonderful it is. That's why I chose to buy a home here. But we hope in Millstone Farm that we can actually stay under that $1 million point for the initial purchases of these homes. We hope that these attached single-family duet product that we can actually get under a $600,000 number, and likewise on the patio homes somewhere in the $700,000 number. And it's hard to say that those are starter prices or affordable prices, right? But they're attainable, and that's really what we're looking to do with Millstone Farm. And at the same time, because I have developed in Eagle before, and I'm familiar with the process, familiar with the open space requirements, and kind of the look that Eagle's trying to maintain and continue to keep here in the city, is we've really put forth our best foot forward, and that's why I hired the land group. I worked with Phil Hull for years, clear back in 2007, 8, 9, and when I came back into the Boise area, we currently are doing 7 different projects here in town. Star, Caldwell, Middleton, Meridian, but chose to go with the land group because they're fabulous and they know Eagle and they create great product. Also Draft Tech and the other people that we're going to be using, Wright Brothers Construction, for example, for the amenities. So it's really cool to have these Eagle City businesses actually participate in this project, and we're excited for that. In regards to the CEP funds, it's new to me, but I like the concept. And if it's something that it can be either, is that a deed restriction that typically is, if we go the city route, is that typically on a deed restriction? Or how does that work with the HOA? Or we just want to make sure that it's a legal path and that we have the right disclosures when we're selling homes and lots, that's disclosed, that's part of their HOA payment. But I'm certainly not against that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep. Councilman Bond?
Vic, do you want me to explain it, or since you're the lawyer, you can explain it to specifically, so it's the legal perspective of it.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Bond, the way the CEP works, and Councilman Bond talked about it, it's the components actually contained in the CCNRs itself, and the persons that are paying are actually the homeowners. Right. So it's not the developers, and it's since it's part of the CCNRs, it's a covenant that runs with the land, and it's again, correct me, $5
right.
per rooftop, $60.
And then a $300 transfer fee per every sale and resale of the property.
That is correct. Right. And typically there's, as part of the CCNR review, there's a model set of CEP language that the city can provide in the CCNRs as well.
Okay. So long as that's standardized and that we follow the guidelines of the city and that we have the right, language to put in the CCNRs in our documents, I'd support that. Certainly, because as a semi-citizen of Eagle, property owner in Eagle, I love Eagle. I mean, that's why we chose to live here. And I love, and it's hard for me to say as a developer, I love the agricultural ground and the sunsets and everything else that goes with that. So I would definitely be in support of that. The $300 transfer fee is a little strong, just comparative to other fees that I've experienced. But as long as we have the right documentation and language and disclosures, just knowing that when buyers buy into that development, they understand that, and we'd have a separate sheet that discloses that, and we'd market it in a way that benefits the city. And the fact that it's going to the city, I feel comfortable with that as well.
Okay. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Bond?
So I guess follow up on that one relative to, you okay with the conditional approval for incorporation of a dog park in there? Is that?
Yes, except for the fact that we're already so over amenitized, I shouldn't say over, but highly amenitized. I would look at reprogramming something else and replace that, simply because we're at a 26% open space and we're 39% under our development agreement allotment on density. We've already sacrificed 6 or 7 lots just in the engineering process and trying to accommodate things, simply so we could make this a smooth process, hopefully, as we get through City Council. But I'm more than happy to make a dog park as one of our amenities and make it a nice one that will work for the community.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? All right. Staff? You got
that's good. We both appreciate it. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, if you choose to approve this, I have a couple recommendations for conditions. On site-specific condition number 24, I'd request that you add, if it's okay with the applicant, since they presented you with elevations tonight of the 2-family duets, which are a single-family attached product. Those weren't originally included in the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation. So staff would ask that you add language within number 24 that states single-family and 2-family attached in conformance with those elevations. We'll use the elevations, if it's all right with the council, that were presented tonight to make those part of your findings of fact and conclusions of law. Number 29 would be the CEP requirement. Number 30, Tracy's probably going to hit me over this. I'm going to read you a condition. The location of a dog park within the development shall be reviewed and approved by the Design Review Board and City Council prior to submittal of a final development plan, final plat application. And I'd start that off with the applicant shall provide a dog park.
Okay, any questions? No?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Make a motion.
I'd like to close the public hearing first. We haven't quite done that yet.
Already did that. Sorry.
No.
My bad.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Okay, any discussion or motions?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Vaughn?
I'd like to make a motion to approve action item 9A, CU-05-21/PP-UD-05-21-PP07-21, Millstone Farms Plan Unit Development with the following site-specific conditions of approval. Number 24, we'll add language including single-family or 2-family attached with elevations presented tonight. site-specific condition number 29, addition of the CEP funding mechanism. Condition number 30, applicant shall provide a dog park with the location of the dog park to be identified per what Mike said earlier, because he talked too fast. And Mike, what were the specifics? I know it's before location to be identified previous to final plat.
The applicant shall be required to provide a dog park within the development. The location of the dog park shall be reviewed and approved by the Design Review Board and City Council prior to submittal of a final development plan, prior to submittal of a design review application, because they have to review it.
Okay.
That'll be, so he made my motion better for me. Sorry, that's it.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Second. Any more discussion? I would like to say that I'm very glad to see when developers are listening to what the people have said, what we've said as a council, and coming in with a project that they could have turned and burned at 4.9 units per acre and come in at the 3.45. I know we approved some of these things back in the early 2000s, but seeing what is happening and the growth that's happening in the valley, understanding that that's not the route that we might want to go today. So I appreciate you guys taking the time and looking at it and sharpening your pencils and doing the right thing for the city of Eagle. So I just want to say that. Thank you. All right, any more discussion?
Yeah, another comment if you don't mind.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, I'd also like to reiterate some of the mayor's thoughts, but also that you're providing, I'll just call them townhomes or do whatever, I duplex. I mean, that's just in my head to do those things. But it does provide an option, and outside of multi-residential. I mean, it gives an option to where you can purchase things at a more affordable price, hopefully, for a lot of people. So when developers bring these plans in, that's what I'm looking for personally, is something, if you're going to go to mixed use and stuff, I'd like to see some kind of retail or some light commercial someday with a mixed use program or presentation. But the fact that you can provide something that people can purchase in a development, I think at a higher density and a lower cost. I mean, I think that has some merit to it. So I'm happy to see we're starting to see a trend a little bit. But one of the things also that we didn't bring up, and it just for food for thought for later, is this work at home concept where you can have I forgot the term of it. What's the term? You work and you work. What is it? Live work. Thanks. It's as easy as that. Live work options, but a few of those mixed in would have been even more in my favor, to have the opportunity for people to have that option as well. But we're seeing that in some of the other developments in the city, and I thought that was a good concept with the way things have gone lately with the high tech, and also whatever pandemic they wanted to bring our way. We had options for people to be able to work still without worrying about those kind of aspects. So just food for thought for next part of your design review. But that's my comments. So thanks.
Okay. Anything else? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, move on to item 9B, VAC-01-22, vacation and final plat of Renovair subdivision number 2, Lincoln Swagger. Or maybe Mike Williams.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Mike Williams, planning staff, for the record. I'm not sure if the applicant's here. I can cover the vacation. It's a simple vacation. They're looking to vacate an easement within Renovair subdivision. It was originally an emergency access easement, and they actually have another easement that takes access off of a better street, I think, than Riverside. Instead of taking it off the collector, it's a little local street. The fire department has reviewed the vacation of this easement, and there's documentation from the fire department indicating that the Eagle Fire Department has reviewed the above referenced address for vacation. The Eagle Fire Department approves of the proposed vacation at this address. However, the Eagle Fire Department cannot speak for the other utility easements which are on the original plat. They are vacating a portion of those easements, and as part of this approval, if you choose to approve, they will have to provide relinquishment letters from those utility providers. And with that, staff would stand for questions. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Bond?
So Mike, on this one, I just want to make sure, because I know this was, it's not necessarily a Renovair, but it's a Renovair and next door neighbor, is we had issues with an access, basically accessing the green belt somewhere over here. Is this anywhere close to that by any chance? It was one with the adjacent, the commercial property to the east. You have the commercial property.
It's Eagle Lakes right to the east of this.
And so there was, that's the.
There's a pathway that runs right on the other side of the fence from this development that runs all the way from this street, the little cul-de-sac that comes in where the fire department's taking access off.
Yep.
I believe it's Ancona. And it's a public pathway easement that runs all the way down to the green belt.
Okay, so that was the one that we were talking about. This won't have any effect on that, correct?
No, sir.
Okay, yeah, that's what I want to make sure. Because I know a while back when we put that in place, there was some potential issues at the north end of it. So just as long as it doesn't interfere with that accessing for that public easement, we're good.
Okay. Any other questions? Discussion, motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion if.
Mr. Mayor, can I run over and check and see if anybody's on there?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, my God, you guys, jeez. Sorry.
Setting this up.
I know. I remember on one, forget on the other. All right, seeing no one signed up, is there anybody that'd like to speak on this? All right, then I'll close the public hearing.
All right, no,
Okay.
no, thank you,
Yes.
sorry. All right, Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve item 9B to vacate, it's VAC-01-22, the vacation of final plat for the Renovair subdivision number 2, Lincoln Swaggart.
All right, there's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll move on to item 10A, new business action item, ordinance 864, Eagle City Code, Title 6-8, fiber optic system. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Vaughn? No? Okay.
No.
Discussion, motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to go ahead and go for the move that pursuant to Idaho Code 50-902 that the rule requiring ordinances to be read 3 different days with 1 reading to be in full be dispensed with, and the ordinance number 864 be considered after being read only by title once.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. All right, Mr. Mayor, then I'll go ahead and move that we approve the new business item number 10A. It's ordinance number 864. It's the Eagle City Code Title number 6-8 fiber optic system. The ordinance of the City of Eagle, Ada County, Idaho, amending Title 6 Public Ways and Property by adding Chapter 8 Municipal Fiber Optic System, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call?
Aye.
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 All right, we'll move on to item 10B, action item ordinance 875, annexation and rezone.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Guindelsberger?
I'll make a motion to approve, I move pursuant to Idaho Code 50-902 that the rule requiring ordinances to be read on 3 different days with 1 reading to be in full be dispensed with, and that ordinance number 875 be considered after being read once by title only.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Guindelsberger.
I move that ordinance number 875 be adopted. It's the annexation and rezone and ordinance annexing certain real property situated in the unincorporated area of Ada County, Idaho, and contiguous to the corporate limits of the City of Eagle to the City of Eagle, Idaho, changing the zoning classification of certain real property described herein from RUT Rural Urban Transition, Ada County designation to MU-DA mixed use with a development agreement, amending the zoning map of the City of Eagle to reflect said change, directing that copies of this ordinance be filed as provided by law, and providing an effective date.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Roll call.
Aye.
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 All right, item 10C, ordinance 876, rezone.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Russell.
I'd like to make a motion to move pursuant to Idaho Code 50-902 that the rule requiring ordinances to be read on 3 different days with 1 reading to be read in full be dispensed with, and that ordinance number 876 rezone be considered after being read by title only once.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Russell.
to move that ordinance number 876 rezone and ordinance changing the zoning classification of certain real property described herein from R4 residential to R6DA residential with a development agreement, amending the zoning map of the City of Eagle to reflect said change, directing that copies of this ordinance be filed as provided by law, and providing an effective date be adopted.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Roll call.
Aye.
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 All right, motion carries. Move on to item 11, public comment 2. The Eagle City Council is taking both in-person and remote public comment via WebEx. Meeting login instructions are posted on the website. If you just want to watch the meeting without giving comment, please watch our live stream at the website. This time is reserved for the public to address our elected officials regarding concerns or comments they would like to provide to the City Council regarding any matter up to and including any subject on the agenda, with the exception of public hearing and land use items. Comments regarding public hearing and land use items need to be made during the open public hearing for said items in accordance with Idaho Code. At times, the City Council may seek comments, opinions regarding specific city matters, excluding a public hearing and land use items. During this allotted time, out of courtesy for all those who wish to speak, the City Council requests each speaker to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak? Yep, come on up, sir. Give your name and address for the record when you get up to the microphone.
James Westcott, 1396 North Racing Waterway in Eagle. Unfortunately, there wasn't any room for public comment regarding the fiber optic ordinance that was just passed, but, well, I'm not sure if that's the correct terminology, so.
Fine.
I did have a couple comments on it. I've been here and provided public comment on the fiber optic network before, and I've spoken to you as well, Mayor Pierce. But I wanted to raise a couple concerns that were specifically in the ordinance. And these are not in order of the document itself, but are in order of, I guess, my concerns. So in section 10-1-4, there is no obligation to serve. However, the council and the ordinance is requiring an expenditure by the developer and thereby the taxpayer to pay for facilities that may or may not be used at some future unspecified date, according to 10-1-17. There is also no ability for a developer to opt out from providing conduit for the city's use. I know Middleton, as an example, has allowed for if there are more than 2 service providers providing service, there is no requirement for the developer to install that conduit. There is also no overall referenced or budgetary plan that I've seen at this point for what the fiber network is actually going to look like and how that's going to be deployed, as well as what the fees that are referenced are in here. There's no current outline of what those may look like. 10-1-17, subsection A, 2A. The conduit added as to the total cost of the project and not properly accounted for as a line item for fiber optic network. This means that taxpayers not receiving fiber service are paying for the network, because the language does allow for the total cost or a portion of the conduit costs to be included in the overall project. So if it's like a road improvement or a sidewalk improvement and conduit is included in that, my understanding of this ordinance allows it to be built into the overall project fund, which does not allow for a proper accounting of how much the fiber network is truly going to cost the city and then the taxpayers.
So I would have one thing clear there. So it is not adding to the taxpayers. It will be adding to the users. This is a user-based, just like our water system. So you, as an Eagle resident, if you don't use the City of Eagle water system, I'm done, I can't talk anymore, then you don't pay into the City of Eagle water system for it. So it's only the users of the system that will pay for that. So I just want to make sure that's clear.
Mr. Mayor, I understand that point as you've defined it previously. Section 10-1-17 is referring to installing conduit as new roads, parkways, improvements are made. And so conduit installation would not be, that would be attributed to that particular project, when in fact it's actually part of the fiber optic system.
So I'm trying to understand how that's the taxpayers paying for it.
So do taxpayers not pay for road improvements, parks, et cetera?
Well, as they improve something or dig something up, we would be able to put conduit in to those areas, but it would be paid for through the enterprise fund, which is the fiber network. It's not coming off the general fund taxpayer dollars.
Where are the funds for the enterprise funds coming from if they're not directly? My understanding, as you previously explained it, is the funds that the enterprise funds are supported by the individual users of that network, correct?
Correct.
So if you are placing conduit whenever the ground is open, as defined in 1.A, there is no direct user of that conduit or fiber facilities that is placed within that until some future date.
But it's still not the taxpayer. It would come under the fees that people are paying as fiber users, the money that's in that to continue to build the system out.
So any placement of conduit is coming from that fund?
Correct.
That's not what's, my understanding is that is not what, let's see here. In general, the cost of purchasing, installing, and documenting conduit may be included in the cost of the overall project, which is referring to a new street, road, sidewalk, bike path, and or other transportation infrastructure construction. So
that then you must be referring to, and Bill, maybe you can clarify this, is the developer putting that in. So once again, it's not.
This is by the city. Section B refers to private development, which is another section of that ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the intent of this section is to identify when the times would be eligible that you could go in and do this. So, for instance, under 1A, new street, road, sidewalk, bike path, or other transportation infrastructure construction, we all know that the city doesn't pay for new street and other transportation infrastructure. That's when a road project is being done by ACHD or ITD, and this is identifying that as an opportune time to go in and do it. So when you get down to item A2A, in general, the cost of purchasing, installing, and documenting conduit may be included in the cost of the overall project, but that's not mandating that it's being funded out of the general fund. It still can be funded out of your enterprise fund.
Right.
But the language does allow for it to be funded out of the general fund. because it says may. Is that incorrect?
Right. Okay.
Can I add one,
Keep going.
couple more comments? Okay. Section 10-1-1, under the purpose section, it stated that you're providing network services of a greater level of privacy, security, and reliability that is available than that is currently available across the public internet. That's more of a question. How are you doing that? How are you doing that better than other service providers? And then 10-1-10, there's no liability for interruptions of service. 10-1-11, no required notice regarding planned outages. I guess my comment would be some of these caveats that are added don't really provide a better level of service than some of the competitors that I currently deal with and the community deals with from publicly available service providers. So if the intent of the city is to provide a better and higher level of service,
Great. I'll let you finish up.
if it's the intent of the city to provide a better level of service, I don't think this ordinance and would allow for that based on the current language.
Okay. All right. Any questions? All right. Thanks, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Public comment? No? All right. Seeing none then, we'll move into item 12, executive session. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Bond?
Move that we go into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-206 relative to the acquisition of interest in real property which is not owned by a public agency, and to communicate with legal counsel for the public agency to discuss the legal ramifications of legal opinions for pending litigation or controversies not yet being litigated but imminently likely to be litigated.
All right. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Aye.
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 Okay, we'll go out into executive. All right, we're back from executive session. Are there any motions? Item A, regarding acquisition of real property. Seeing none. Item B, action regarding pending and threatening litigation. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 13, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.